Good day, everyone. We'll get started. I hope you all can hear me. My name's John Shippick. I'm the Discover Product Manager at Datamine Software. And today I'm going to take you through the Discover 2019 release webinar. What we'll be focusing on mainly is the Discover Mobile portion of the release. It's something that, we're really proud of. We know everyone out there has been asking for it for a long time, so it's a great feeling to be able to finally deliver it to you. So let's get started. If you've got any questions, just put them, you can, down the side of the menu, the WebEx menu, you can just write them in there and we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. So let's get started. So Discover Mobile is a field data collection tool. So that's really tightly integrated with Discover Desktop. So you'll know that there's a lot of field apps you can get them quite cheap, but the real benefit of Discover Mobile is the ability to be able to really integrate with your files on your desktop, take them into the field, look at them in the field, collect data in the field, and integrate that data straight back in to your files that are on your desktop. So it's a great way to be able to keep your data together. You're not dealing with CSVs, you're not dealing with millions of different files. You're just dealing with what's on your desktop, and the way we take the file out to the field is via just one file, which is a geo package file. But we'll get into that in more detail a bit later. So the Discover Mobile application, to start off with, it's just available on Android devices. And it can work from OS 6 to 8. A lot of people are like, oh, why didn't you get it on iOS? The reason we went Android is larger market. I think 75% of mobile devices around the world are Android, and there's just a less of a barrier to entry. So we should have our iOS version out by the end of the year. And, in the meantime, if you buy, I've got a really good Android phone I brought here in Australia, it was $200. So it's not too excessive, where if we did iOS first, you'd have to be buying a $1,000 Apple phone, basically. So the barrier to entry on Android's a lot less. So that's why we did it first. So it can be downloaded for free by anyone on the Google Play Store. So anyone can download the app. Anyone can use the app that has Discover Desktop. So to get the app to work, anyone can download the app, but for it to work, you have to have a mobile project that gets created on Discover Desktop. And I'll show you how to do that shortly. The mobile portion of the desktop program will be available to anyone that has a maintained version of Discover. So you don't have to pay any extra for it. It's not a separate product. It's part of Discover as long as you're a maintained customer. So if you fall out of maintenance, you won't be able to use mobile. So you've got to keep maintained. So the user benefits of mobile, it really solves the problem of going from office to field to office. We've created a workflow that just makes this so simple and easy. So some of the benefits, you can take all your GIS data out into the field. So you can take your grids, you can take your images. So we'll show some examples, like I can take a mag grid out and I can see when I'm standing on top of a mag high, which is great. I can take an image out. So, an old geological map that someone's annotated, I can take that out into the field and see where I'm standing in relation to the observations on that map. I can take vector data out, point, line, and polygon. So I can, and then look at the attributes. So if I take out an old soil, an old point file of soils that was taken, 20 years prior, I can then look and, interrogate those points to see, okay, what are the values? What's the value of the geochem that I'm standing on at the moment? The great thing is with all this data, you can see where you are in relation to that because the device supports the GPS. You use be able to take historical data into the field. You'll be able to collect point and line data. So you can take, grab sample soils as points, or you can record a track if you're walking along it, or if you want to record a line where you've walked around an outcrop to see where it's been, where it sits geospatially. Using the GPS, you can do that as well. You can also set up in the desktop the files so that they can perform really easily and well on the mobile. So you can set up drop downs. So you're collecting out in the field. You don't want to be typing. You want it to be as fast as possible. That's one of the big user benefits that we say, like just say, for example, you're doing a soil program. And instead of having to log, any sort of data with that, if it goes into a book, what you'll do is you'll just do it easily and quickly into the mobile device. So, just say, for example, I was out doing soils in November and, it was averaging about 3 minutes of soil. If you can get that down to 2 minutes 30, well, you've saved yourself 1 day of a 6-day program pretty much. So it really helps just speed up the process of getting data. It'll also encourage people to take more data, because it's not like, you've seen something that's of, minor interest. You think, oh, well, if I've got to pick that up and sample it, record it, and then I've got to go and integrate. If you just, take that barrier away, because it's so easy to, to collect data with mobile, it's just going to make people collect more data. Some other features that are in it are waypoint finder. So for example, if you've got a soil plan grid and you want to navigate to each next soil, you can do that with the waypoint finder. Most importantly, because it's built for our geoscience clients, it's built to work in an offline environment. So all the files here can work completely offline. You can even cache. It's got the Google Map base map behind it. You can cache that Google Map onto the device when you're in Wi-Fi or mobile range, and then take that into the field offline, and all the base maps are still cached on there. The user can quickly and seamlessly merge their collected field data back to the desktop. Discover mobile projects can be distributed to multiple mobile users. So, anyone can download the app. So if you've got field hands, they can download it, and you're distributing projects out to them on the app. You've got a manager, you want to, take their, like Dave Corrigan, one of our sales guys, he was, taking the data to an expo so they can demonstrate and people can look at the data in detail on their mobile device. So it opens up the user base of Discover and helps you distribute your data to your workers and managers. So as I mentioned earlier, the biggest benefit of Discover, it's the data flow. It's how to go from office to field to office and do it as seamlessly as possible without having to do CSVs or a clunky sort of way to deal with your data. So the way the data flow starts with the Discover mobile project is you'll have your source data. Now this might be in a database as Acquire or Fusion or Maxwell or Access. It might be in large enterprise file, map info files, like you might have a state DTM file. And that's where your data starts as source data. Now, the trouble with source data, and we are collecting data, so it has to be read-write. We want to make sure that we can write to our data. Now, a lot of the source data is read-only. So what we do is we create a data project, a mobile project on the Discover desktop. So what that does, you can start a workspace with all your source data. You'll clip out your data and it will become read-write, so you can write to that data. It also can contain the data within, so it clips the data to a certain area. Obviously, if your source data is a DTM file of the whole of WA, you don't want to be taking that all into the field. So what it does, it clips the data, gives it a common projection, and it adds metadata to the source data, to the project data, so it knows if the data, a line has been altered or added, it will know that that's what it has to add back to the source data. So it helps you integrate back to your source data. So we've gone source data, we've created a mobile project of clipped data sets, all in the one projection on your desktop. The next thing we do is we want to get that onto our mobile device. So the way we do that is we check out the mobile project, which is, it might have 20, 30 files in it. It might have vector, grid, image. You don't want to be stuffing around with lots of different files. So what we do is we put it into one file type that's called a geo package. So geo package is the OGC standard file for GIS files, and we boil down the project and put it into one file. So if you now just have one file to get onto your mobile device and back to your desktop, you're not dealing with millions of different files. The other thing about GeoPackage, it is a fantastic file format. It's really, architecturally, it was really impressed us when we were working with it. So, for example, your images, your grid files in MapInfo, it will tile them so that on the mobile device, you will see when I demonstrate it, just the speed that you can pan and zoom a large image on your mobile device. And that's because of the architecture of GeoPackage and the fact that it tiles an image. The other great thing about it is that you can take photos in the field and it'll store it in the GeoPackage as a blob, basically. And then when you extract the GeoPackage back in MapInfo, it'll dump the photos out. So you're not, again, having to get photos off your device. It's all just within the one file. So the next part is you put your GeoPackage on the phone, you'll be out in the field, you'll be looking at your data, you'll be collecting data, putting data into these tables. And then when you've done that, you'll take your GeoPackage and put it back via the cloud or wherever you do it, back to your desktop. Now, the thing about getting the file onto your phone, we just say that's your responsibility. So we've been doing it with Dropbox. Some people might think that's secure enough. You can do it via Bluetooth. However you get a file onto your phone, that's how you do it. So it's just one file that you have to deal with, and how you do it is up to you. So now we're getting the file back off the phone. So it comes back through the cloud, comes back to your desktop, all the data collected into your tables, gets populated back into your MapInfo tables, your photos get saved out into a folder, and then we've got metadata. If we want to update our source data, we can do that with Update Source, which is just one button. It will say, okay, this is what's been added. Do you want to update it? Okay, and then your data goes back to the source and you've completed what we call is the data round trip from source to desktop to field to desktop to source. Okay, so let's get started and we will do a quick demonstration. So I'll just close this. Open up MapInfo. So the mobile data story starts on your desktop. So let's just open up a workspace, typical workspace that you'd want to take in the field. So you'll see here, I've got some data. This is from an antimony prospect up here in Victoria. We've got DTM, we've got large road files, we've got soil sampling, we've got some structural data, we've got an old map image, we've got some drone data that we took up there. You can see the sort of detail and relief in that. We've got a geochem grid, structural data, basically every sort of data type that you would want to take into the field and want to record in the field, okay? So the other thing we've got, so we're going to take all this data into the field and we're going to take in a couple of files that we want to record into. So for this, I'm just going to record into 2 files. So I've got this Gannon soils. So you'll see I've set that up. It's an empty file at the moment, and I'll show you how I'll bring data back into that. And we've got a track file here. So that's, we want to put some tracks in on that. So what we're going to do, the first thing before we take our data in the field, so we've got a workspace here. But the first thing we want to do is, get our tables to perform as efficiently as possible in the field. So just say we want, if we're going to be recording into this Gannon Soils 2019, we want to set up that table so it's, recording really efficiently. So the first thing we'll do is we want to be able to set up pick lists. This is not a new function in Discover, it's been around for a while, but we use the pick list, so from that we can generate our drop-down lists on our mobile device. So when we're in the field, we don't want to be typing out every single thing. We just want to set up drop-downs. Drop-downs are great, they help with, data validation, so people can't just put in whatever they want, data consistency, and, it's just the speed of being able to engage with them and it's typing something with your finger. So the way we do that is if we go to, so you'll see here, we've got a new menu item called Project. So everything to do with the mobile data transfer and anything to do with Discover Mobile will be under the Project tab, okay? So if we go to the Pick List Manager, if we want to set up a new pick list, we go create new pick lists. I won't do that. And here's some examples. Like here's a pick list that we'll take into the field with soil horizons. Here's another one we've got for soil color, okay? And you can give it a style. So when that data comes back into that table from the field, it'll give it a thematic style automatically if you want to, okay? So that's pick list. So now we've got our pick list set up. We have our data we want to take into the field. What we want to look at now, and I'll show you some of the new functionality we've put in, is to make the table perform how you want in the field. And the way we do that is with the table validation menu. So we're going to look at Gannon soils, and we're going to open that up. So this again it's been around for a couple of years. It helps with digitizing and data continuity, but we've added some things to it to help with the mobile. So this is Gannon soils. It's a typical table. It's got sample ID. These are the columns, character, float, and I've added some columns for GPS X, Y, Z, lithology, color, soil horizon, some default columns, date, time, and we've added a photo column as well. So what that'll do is we come up to parameter, and with that column we can assign a GPS X, Y, Z value. So if the mobile device sees that, it knows, well, okay, if I'm going to take a GPS value off the mobile device, I'm going to read that off the mobile device and write it to this column in the table, okay? So we've got GPS X, Y, Z. I've set up these defaults, Y and Z. And the other important one is photo. So if you've got a character field, you can set up a photo. And what that will do is when you've got a point, just say I've taken a point, got a sample ID, I've taken a photo and associated with it, it will save the photo into the project folder where all the photos are kept, and it will it'll put a link to that photo, it'll put a link to that folder and the name of the photo file in that parameter field, okay? Other things we've got here is you can set up your lookup tables. So all these pick lists in the field, if I want to have a drop down in a column, I can do that by adding these pick lists. I can also add default values. So if I know it's a soil, sample type soil, sample method auger, fraction -80, the company Jamison Minerals that did it, and the prospect Gannons. These are values that aren't going to change for this table, and I just want them put in as I go. I can also put in date time fields that automatically get updated by the GPS date time. So I can also say, okay, I want to set for this table, if I want to style it as it comes into map info, I'll style it with this column, okay, give it a tick. And the other thing that's important here, see I've got increment. So for sample ID, I'm incrementing it by 1. So every time I go next sample, it'll increment whatever you put in to start with by 1 to the next time you take a sample. So it just saves you having to type it every time. Haven't done it here, but you can also set up validations, min-max. So if you've got dip and dip direction, you'd set it, min-max 0 to 90, 0 to 360. And so people can't put in values above that. So you can set up validations as well. Okay, so we'll save that. It's all there. You see the parameters are set, lookup table set, increment set. We go save. So what that does, it saves that to the metadata of that file. So usually it's best to do that in the source data. If you can't write to the source data, you do it in your project data. That's just as fine. And so you can share that with someone. And if they opened up that file and then opened up the table validation, they would see all that written into it because it's written into the file metadata. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is create a mobile project that we want to take into the field. So we've defined, okay, we've got what we want to take open. We've defined our pick lists and we've defined our tables and how they'll perform in the field. So I want to take this out into the field, this area here. So I'll go project, and this is a new tool, mobile manager, and I'm going to create a new project and I'm going to call it demo. Okay. And I'm going to take all these files, put them there. I define the same as the project with drilling project. I'm going to create a folder, demo, go okay, and I go next. So a couple of things here before I hit that. There's some layers that aren't supported. There's a few old legacy grid types that it doesn't particularly like. Multi-object vectors, you can only have a point, a line, or a polygon. You can't have multi-object vectors, it doesn't like it. And small int fields. So if you've got a table, it's got a small int field in it, just change it to float or something like that. So I hit next, then it comes up with, okay, when I'm in the field, how do you want these tables to perform? So I only really want to collect data into Gannon soils and the secondary roads because I want to report some tracks, okay? So I make all the others read only. So I can still take them in the field, I can interrogate them, I can interrogate a point file, see what the value is, but I can't edit it or add to it, okay? And you see if I want to check the validation on the side here, I can do that, okay? So I go next, and now it's like, well, what is your cropping region? So I don't want the whole state of Victoria in here. I just want to take this area here out into the field. Now, by doing that, it doesn't mean you can't take a sample point outside of that area in the field. It just means I'm just cropping the data down so it's easier to handle. So I go okay. And now what it's doing, it's cropping and reprojecting all that data. So it'll reproject it into whatever the base map was. In this case, it's 9455. And it's cropping the data and putting it into a project folder. It doesn't take too long, it takes about a minute. Okay, so then it comes up, excuse me, it's this a validation status. It says, yeah, this table's had validation rules set to it. It doesn't have to have, and it has a map style. It's just telling you, you might assume that you've had validation rules and for some reason you hadn't. So it just lets you know, but it's not any way going to stop you from taking it into the field. So now I've got a project called demo, and I can open that project and I'll close everything else. Don't want to save it to my source. So I had source files, and now these are all my project files. So it's been clipped, and this is what I'm going to take into the field. So if I look in that project folder, there'll be a heap of clipped map info tab files. The next thing I want to do is I want to be able to check this out. So when I check it out, I want to check this project out, and I want to send it to Discover Mobile. So I want to send it to a cloud, so it's a Dropbox, so I can access that via my phone and upload it to the mobile device. So if I go okay, I'm going to cancel this actually because it does take that'll take probably 2 minutes, but then to sync that up to the cloud, it'll take a little while. So I'm just going to open up a project that I've already done that for. So if I go to this Gannon's import, you'll see I've checked it out, and you see it's got status checked out. So even if I open this now, you'll see I can't alter anything. So when you check a project out, you can't alter it on the desktop. So the reason for that being is you can only hand it a project to one person at a time. You can't create a project, give it to 10 people because they can only check it back in once, okay? Now, the reason for that is we don't want data clashes, we don't want data merging. That's how we've handled it, okay? So it's just one person can handle a project at a time. So the other thing is someone alters it on the desktop, you've been out in the field, try to bring it back in, and the data doesn't collate, it's going to crash. So we want to avoid that happening, okay? So you'll see the data is checked out. And then if I go to where this is stored on, where are we? So Discover Mobile, you'll see there's a Gannon's import. There's a project there called Gannon's import. It's one geo package file, and it's about 143 meg for that, okay? So because that is now on the cloud, I can open up my mobile device and I can put that on it. So I'll just close that, this, and let's get going. So I take a second. I'm just mirroring my phone so you can see it on my desktop. So okay. So you'll download, you go to the Google Play Store and you can download the Discover app, which you can see here. So I hit that. And now I've got two options. So this is what it looks like. I can either open a project or import a project. So if I'm starting from scratch, I'll import the project. I'll go down, I'll look at my Dropbox and go to the folder where I saved it. And then I just hit one of those and it will open up, okay? But I don't want to do that at this point. I want to open a project because it takes time to download. So I'm going to go Discover. I'm going to open a project, one that I've done earlier, and I've got this project called Gannon's open, okay? So let's just have a quick look at the screen setup. So we tried to make it as basic as possible. So when you're in the field, you don't have the, it's not complicated, it's easy to use. The complexity is kind of on the desktop, so we wanted to hide it from the user on here. So firstly, if we come over to the top left-hand corner, I open up the button there and you'll see all the tables that we've come in. It's in a layer control here, okay? So now I can view different layers and you'll see it's been put onto a background of tiled Google Maps imagery. I can add, structural data. I can add, millions of different things. Here's some roads, some old workings. Let's have a look at, there's a drone image. What else we got here? And here's an old geological map. So we've got, a lot of data on there if we want it. The other thing we can do is change our base maps to which style, okay? So we've just gone satellite, but I could change it to normal, terrain, or hybrid, okay? So we get rid of that. You'll see as well, I can put layers up and down. So if I don't want, for example, that geochem layer, I select it and I want to go down, so it's behind everything, I can do that. Okay. So now that would have gone behind there. All right. So now let's look at some other data. So the other thing, you can put images in here. I'll just show you the quality of the zoom. I can close that, so you could look at really great quality imagery that you can bring in and look at your phone. So here's an old geology map. I can see all the different, detail that's been logged on it. Here's a drone image that flew up in this area just recently, so I'll zoom into that. We're talking sort of stick and twig level there. Here's an old outcrop. So great imagery there. So if we go back, I could turn stuff on and off. And you'll see, remember I set read only and write only. All the read only files have been locked. So if I want to find out, so Gannon soils, I'll just bring that up. So Gannon's geochem. So you see that grey. So I'm going to select those grey points. Okay, now if I just want to look at that, see it's locked, so I can't edit it, but I want to just look at it so I can see the detail that's come in. So I can see, okay, there was, this was assayed already, it's going 43 lead. I was interested in the antimony here, so scroll down, it's going 2,100 antimony at that point, okay? So I can interrogate old data. I can do that for the geology as well. So here's the polygons, get those up. I select that, click on that polygon. You'll see that's, greater than 1% disseminated pyrite, okay? So I'll turn that off. So you can interrogate data that you you've set as read only and take it out into the field, which is really handy. Excuse me. Yeah, the main thing you want to do when you're out in the field is you want to add data. Okay, so just say, for example, I want to add, so it can only add to a table that is editable. Okay, so I'm going to turn that one off. So I'll select. Down. Yep. So I've got this Gannon soils, turn it on. This was an empty file that I'd created to take and put data into. So I have to select it and then I hit the edit button. Then as I do that, let's make a bit more screen real estate by turning off the layer control. You'll see that orange dot appears, okay? Now, when I hit that, it gives me two options for this point to where I put it. If I hit the top one, it'll put it where the GPS point is. It'll be a blue dot on the screen. I'm inside an office now, so I can't get that working. You'll see it's got no GPS fix at the top. If I wanted to turn the GPS on, you turn on that, you see up the top there, there's a little sort of signal with like a radio signal coming out of it. If I click that, it creates a crosshair and that will be my GPS point. Now I'll turn that off. So, or just say, for example, I've got this great drone image and I know the GPS is a bit off because it's near a cliff face. It's saying I'm here. I can just collect it. I can move the crosshairs to where I think I am and collect it from that point, which I'm going to do now. So if I hit the top button on the left-hand side with the target on it, that will take the GPS value. But because I don't have a GPS, I'm going to select the second one and that'll give me the value of where the crosshairs are at. So I'm going to type in, because it was an empty table, it hasn't got the sample ID. So I look at my sample bags and I see that the first sample is JM, hang on, 001. Now that's the only time I'll have to type it because it'll be incrementing it from now on, right? So it's taken the XY off the map. Now I added a drop down for lithology. So I know that, okay, this was a sandstone. The color was light gray. Soil horizon I took it from was soil horizon B. Then it's populated the defaults, which are set up on the desktop. And I want to add a photo from a gallery, or I can add it from a camera. Here we go there and go OK. So now the photo is included in that entry. I go save, it's included it, and it's added the point there. So I walk down the cliff here a bit, and I'm going to add another point, do the same again. And you'll see it's incremented it now to JM002, and I know that's my next sample bag. So I'm going to sample that again. We go lithology. So, yep, sandstone, dark brown, soil horizon B. And again, I'll add another photo from the gallery. So, got that. Now I can add multiple photos as long as I've set up multiple photo columns. So I'd have to have columns set up in my table, photo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that would be the amount of photos I could take, okay? So now I could even go back if I want, and I can interrogate that, change it, it's all fine, okay? Let's go save again, and I've added 2 points to that. The next thing is if I want to add see if I go secondary roads, hang on, okay, go add. So if I want to add a string to a line file. So it can only add points and strings at this point, not polygons, but you just take a string and create a polygon on the desktop when you get there. So if I wanted to poll, if I was walking along a track, I would hit the GPS button and it would poll a point and add a string for me, or I can do it manually where I go add node, add node, add node, add node. And then if I could commit that as a line, I call it track 1. Done, and save. Okay, so as well I can put strings in. Okay, so that's pretty much the data collection and using the layer control. So I'm going to turn the layer control off. A few other features here. like I said before, you can turn the GPS on and off. There's a ruler. Just show you the ruler. So if I go ruler, and if I wanted to select a point, select a point, select a point, you can see it was 149 meters, and it's got your different segments as well. So I finished measuring. Okay. Waypoint finder, the GPS isn't on, but if I set a waypoint, it would say, okay, you set a waypoint. If I said start navigation, which I can't because the GPS isn't on, it'd say you've got to walk 200 meters in this direction, the same as on a GPS. Okay, so we cancel out of that. Some of the other things you can alter here in settings. So I can change the unit of measurement in the settings. I'm going to keep it at meter. The GPS interval. So that's your polling interval in the GPS. So if you're walking along a track and you're saying record a string with GPS, it'll give you a point every 5 seconds. The waypoint buffer. So if you're within 3 meters of a point, it'll set off the alarm. You can alter that, okay? So to whatever you want it to be, depending on the accuracy of your GPS. Minimum distance to node. That's saying, okay, I'm polling it every 5 seconds, but I still won't add another point unless I'm within outside of 5 meters of the previous point. Okay, so if you sit down and have lunch and you've put in 1,000 points, you probably don't want that. So it just stops that happening. So that's your settings. Yeah, ruler, waypoint finder, layer control, added points. So it's all pretty straightforward. So we've done everything we wanted. We've collected 2 points. Now, if I want to bring this back in, what I have to do is export it back to the cloud drive, export project Gannon's, and it's exporting it. Dropbox. It's saying, yep, I'm going to add it to that Dropbox. It already exists, so you want to replace it because that was the one that was brought in, and then it's done. Okay, so now we're going to get our data back into our desktop. So we go back to Discover. So it takes a little while to sync because it's 186 meg. So I'm just going to create a project that I've already brought in. So I've got this project called Gannon's Import, okay, and you can see, I'll open that. And you'll see it's checked out, so I can't do anything in it. So I want to check this back in, okay? So what I do is I find where I saved it to. It's this one called Gannon's Import. I go okay, and I go okay. And now I can open that project now. So it's checked the project in. See, it's checked in. I can open that project, and I'm going to look at where I added Gannon soils clipped. I'll browse the table, and you'll see JML1, 2, the XY point. There's no Z because we got it off the map. What I'd put in, lithology, color, soil sample, all the defaults, and the link to the image. So if I go to the project folder, which was kept on my desktop under mobile demo, project import, if I look at the photos, there's 2 photos that were linked into that folder, and you can see it's user desktop demo, Gannon's project photo, okay? Now the last thing to do, so we brought the data from the field seamlessly back to the desktop, is that we want to update our source files. So the way we do that is you go import and I go source, okay? So it's saying, yep, I want to update the source. Yep, nope. And it's saying, okay, I just want to update, it didn't take any roads really. The primary key is the sample ID. So what it knows is in the project, it's got a date stamp on each file. So it knows if it's been altered, the date stamps alter. And it's also got it stamped for if it's new or not. So it knows, okay, if a field's been added or altered, and it knows what to change in the source file. So then it's saying, yep, these were the 2 entries that were added, and I want to update them, and it will save it back to my source file. So if I close that now, I've got nothing open. If I go home and I open the workspace I originally started with, And if I go to Gannon Soils, you see it's added that into there, where before that was an empty table. Okay, so that is the round trip. We've completed the round trip with the mobile data. Okay, so just so again, we started at source, went project to the field, collected data, back, and back to the source file. Okay, so we've got a team working on this continually. We really want to make it as good as possible. We're going to have another update within about 3 or 4 months. We just really want to get something substantial out to the user base, get it out the door. Everyone's been asking for it for so long. So what's coming in the next few months is we're going to add thematic support. So one of the user requirements we've been getting is, just say you've got an XRF, it's connected to your mobile device, and you want to see the arsenic trend while you're in the field. You can do that with thematic support. Image management. We're going to get better at how we manage the images. So at the moment, it'll just save the image to your folder, but we're going to give people the option to say, okay, I want to save that to the, an enterprise folder or to a source folder. I want to be able to also change and create the image name that's the same as the sample ID. Structural measurements from device. So you want to be able to take dip and strike using your mobile phone. We want to be able to do that. Structural symbols, be able to see structural symbols on the device. Geofencing. So if you bring in tenement boundaries and you want an alarm to go off when you walk over that tenement, you'll know. And XRF connectivity. So we're speaking to the people at Olympus and Niton, so we can get connectivity to XRFs. Okay, and lastly, in late 2019, we're going to have an outcrop mapping tool, which will, you better take a picture of an outcrop and start annotating on it and bring it into 3D. The iOS version, and we're going to look at how, enterprise data management. So looking at how data, instead of just going back to your desktop, can go back to your enterprise data collection, if it's Fusion or Acquire or Maxwell's. All right, everyone, that looks like about it. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you got a lot out of it. Yeah, really, download it as soon as you can and get it out in the field and hopefully find some ore deposits. All right, thanks again for your time.